Stay tuned for the Sean Casey Show, a podcast for patriots. Welcome back to the Sean Casey Show, a podcast for patriots, and this is where the resistance meets each and every episode. Today is Friday, June the 9th. I'm Sean Casey. Welcome to a podcast for patriots. Joining us, our executive producer is Double X, Michelle Drusella. Hello, Michelle.
Hi, Sean. No, we have a lot of news today, don't we?
Yeah, to say the least. We had to scrap the whole plan for today's show to adapt and get on the news here. And, of course, the big news is the Trump indictment. We're going to get to that. But that also covered up the really big news, the Biden bribes that broke yesterday, Marjorie Taylor Greene. And so we've got our Patriot of the Week coming up this show, Liberal Lunatics of the Week, nominees, and our outrages of the week as well. But I wanted, before we get into the thrust of the show, because I'm hearing a lot of anger and frustration and desperation in the voices of some of my fellow colleagues and pundits and conservatives, and you have to stay measured. We knew this day was coming. We rue the day, but we knew this day was going to come, and the Trump indictment is not yet here. We're being told by the president, former president, that he was told he was going to be indicted. He has to surrender next Tuesday at 3 p.m. at a court in Miami to face what we believe is 7 counts, all of them obviously trumped up charges. But I keep hearing stuff like, this is a police state now. We've lost our constitutional republic. This is, the weaponization of the Justice Department with this indictment. It is the first federal indictment of a former president since Ulysses S. Grant was given a traffic ticket for speeding with his horse way back back in the day. But this is much more serious. I have long said that all these statements being made, and they're all true, whether they're other podcasters, broadcasters, talk show hosts, political pundits, they're all true. But it's been going on since the day Donald Trump came down the golden escalator. That's right. That is the very beginning of this coup, of this constitutional crisis. Even when Donald Trump was in control of the Justice Department, he wasn't in control. The Attorney General, first Jeff Sessions. Matt Whitaker was probably the closest one he came, but Bill Barr, no, swamp. And the swamp effectively neutralized Trump to the point where he wasn't able to eradicate the deep state. He wanted to do it. He wanted to drain the swamp, but wasn't able to do it because he was constantly kept busy. And the pattern here, when you look at this kind of stuff, is repeating itself, and we'll explain why in just a second. But what I'm most annoyed at is the lack of checks and balances we're seeing in our government today. The legislative branch has given too much power to the executive branch, and the judicial branch has assumed too much power over both of those branches. And I believe, ingrained in the souls of the American people, our system of checks and balances are needed. They're needed to protect our basic human liberties and our rights as well. And this has been with us since the start of our constitutional republic. You know, one of our founders, our founding fathers, Alexander Hamilton, noted in the Federalist Paper number 78 that, quote, the complete independence of the courts of justice is peculiarly essential in a limited constitution, end of quote. Look, if certain rights are reserved for the people or even to the states, then who is in charge of preserving those rights? Are we just to hope that the legislative and executive branches don't enact laws that infringe on these reserved rights and that they'll simply choose not to adopt such laws? We know that politicians often do that. We know that presidents often try to do that. And Alexander Hamilton, what he's saying here, and he didn't agree with it, at least we think he didn't. He said, quote, this conclusion does not suppose a superiority of the judicial to the legislative power. It only supposes that the power of the people is superior to both. Remember, if a statute stands in opposition to the Constitution, in opposition to our Bill of Rights, in opposition to former President Trump's constitutional rights or anyone's constitutional rights, then the judges of a court ought to be governed by the latter rather than the former, meaning they should side with the power of the people and not of the other branches. And I think that's important today because I think we've lost sight of that. Our checks and balances have pretty much been eroded. And we're watching now as a runaway executive branch is running all over the legislative branch and the judicial branch, depending upon the appointee, it may or may not protect the rights of the power of the people. So that's the key figure here, we're now looking, everything is being funneled into the judicial system. And the men and women in black robes, if they are true to their oath, true to their word, are going to stand up and protect the Constitution, because we are living right now in unprecedented times. And never before has a former president been indicted like President Trump is about to be. So we're going to talk about that. And I think what should happen today, and pay close attention to Republicans in the House and in the Senate. I haven't had a chance to gather all the reactions. I know some have spoken out against it. I know others have completely been silent, like Mitch McConnell and many of the rhinos in the United States Senate. Josh Hawley has spoken out against it, saying we've lost our republic. I haven't seen whether Ted Cruz has as of yet or not, but most of the leadership over in the House. But it's one thing to speak out against it. It's another to take action against it.
That's right.
So, again, this is what we have to be careful of. And we talked about this before, Michelle. These people are great talkers.
Yeah.
But they're not great actors as far as taking action. And what the House of Representatives should be doing today, or the first day after the official indictment, because that's next Tuesday, so you can plot and plan for this a little bit. But by certainly Wednesday of next week at the latest, the House of Representatives should introduce articles of impeachment against Joe Biden, against Merrick Garland, against every single one of these lawless cabinet officials in the Biden regime, and show them that you mean business.
I wonder if it's not leverage for the Democrats to have a Trump indictment, and because of the imminent Biden impeachment and indictment for all of what he's doing and his family have been, accused of.
Well, and I've heard that theory, and I think that's a good theory, but I do think that my take on that is they know that even if impeached, they don't have enough votes to remove or convict in the Senate. Okay, but then an impeachment certainly will catch their attention and then maybe bring the American people's attention to how crooked and corrupt the Biden family and his government and his cabinet.
Yeah,
really
because
are.
Trump isn't guilty, but Biden and his family, I'm pretty sure, 99.9% sure they're guilty. Yeah,
well, we're going to get to that here in this hour. The other thing you mentioned was what was the second part of your question again? The second part of your statement? You talked about the Biden impeachment. Oh, the indictment.
Yes.
The indictment, any indictment of Hunter Biden is going to be tantamount to a process crime. They'll find some tax issue, or maybe he didn't necessarily dispose of his gun properly. It is not, repeat. And that's the whole reason why I believe this indictment was rushed out last night, is to help cover up what Marjorie Taylor Greene had said. We'll get to her in just a little bit. And that the Biden bribery document, which is now Christopher Wray's hand, was forced. And he's another one that should be. I think he should be impeached as well. Absolutely, no doubt about that. So we'll get into that in just a second. But again, this is a political hit piece when you have the sitting president of the United States using his Injustice Department, his mob lawyer, Merrick Garland, to bring an indictment on a former president because he's a political opponent. Because let's face it, the double standard here is every single one of these presidents leaves with documents when they leave office. Trump did. Biden left when he was vice president, which is even worse.
I know. Senator.
senator. And then we also have Barack Obama. Again, and we're talking in Obama and George Bush did, and Clinton did. Clinton's case is actually a standard bearer, the Clinton sock drawer case, in which they actually have a court ruling on this, saying the president has the ultimate power to declassify. And that's what they are doing. We're calling this episode today Open Lawfare. And if you've never heard the term lawfare before, it's complicated and it can be simple at the same time. You've heard of warfare. Warfare is obviously when you are conducting acts of war against a country, against the regime, or against whoever. Lawfare combines using or the weaponization of the Justice Department, of the courts, of the legal system to come after your opponents. And what happens is, in the case of the Presidential Records Act, which I've explained before, the punishment for violating that, this was put in after the Nixon administration, was a civil lawsuit. You could sue the president civilly for access to whatever papers you think he took, wrongfully, rightfully, whatever. But it was not a criminal violation. The criminal violation comes in a process crime. If you are in the process of the investigation, if you move boxes around, for instance, and you don't tell the National Archive and Records Administration where they are, and these, again, all of these documents have been declassified. President Trump signed a memorandum on January 19th of 2021, a day before Joe Biden was installed, declassifying everything about Crossfire Hurricane, which was the first attempt to take him out in a coup. Remember, there was impeachment 1.0, impeachment 2.0. We have the rubber. And the pattern I talked about is they got caught. Right. Obama, Biden, Hillary, they all got caught because they never thought that Donald Trump was going to be elected president. And so what they had to do, they had to scramble. They had to falsify FISA warrants. They had to spy on his campaign. They had to spy on his presidency. They had to go after General Flynn, other members of his cabinet, so they could cover up whatever evidence that was still hanging around regarding the Crossfire Hurricane, or the attempt, rather, I should say, to spy on him and get him out. And so that's why Robert Mueller was appointed. Because remember, Jim Comey went to Trump with a dirty dossier, salacious, unverified. Hey, this is out there. And then Comey, when he didn't get what he wanted and got fired by Trump, he then leaked illegally papers to one of his professor buddies, who then leaked it to the New York Times, and that then led to the appointment of Robert Mueller. Robert Mueller was appointed to go in and clean up the mess. Now, Robert Mueller was a figurehead. We now know that Andrew Weissmann, keep that name in your mind. Andrew Weissmann was a friend of Hillary Clinton. He was the pit bull prosecutor, and he is the one, along with Glenn Eisen, that recently wrote a 186-page memo that basically laid out the outline on how to go get Trump on Rule 793 on the retention of national security directives or national security information. And so that's what they're going to try to argue, because the rest of it, Trump had every reason and ability to declassify, and I still think he did in this particular case. But that's what they're trying to hang their hats on. It won't work. It will not work. He will not be found guilty in any way, shape, or form. But just the piling on here, the Manhattan indictment, this indictment. There may be a J6 indictment yet for allegedly inciting the ruckus on J6. And then
Georgia.
And then Georgia. Right. So, again, remember the names: Andrew Weissmann, Glenn Eisen, Lisa Monaco. These are all people that are Obama holdovers, Hillary Clintonistas that are after Trump. They're never Trumpers. They're Trump deranged. They don't want him anywhere near. And the swamp is protecting and participating as well. So we'll get into some of the who's really conducting this in just a second. First off, President Trump did react, and he filed a video statement and an audio statement. We have both for you here today. And first up on what he is calling the boxes hoax.
Very sadly, we're a nation in decline, and yet they go after a popular president, a president that got more votes than any sitting president in the history of our country, by far, and did much better the second time in the election than the first. And they go after him on a boxer's hoax, just like the Russia hoax and all of the others. It's just been going on for 7 years. They can't stop because it's election interference at the highest level. There's never been anything like what's happened. I'm an innocent man. I'm an innocent person. They had the Mueller hoax, the Mueller report, and that came out. No collusion after 2.5 years. That was set up by Hillary Clinton and Democrats. But this is what they do. This is what they do so well. If they would devote their energies to honesty and integrity, it would be a lot better for our country. They could do a lot better. They could do a lot of great things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's absolutely right about that. You know, think of everything that's going on in the country right now with the economy has gone south and record inflation, gas prices are going back up again, southern border, fentanyl, our major cities are racked with illegal guns, thugs, drugs, and cartel gangbangers, etc. We've got all this going on right now, and they're trying to persecute. He's the most investigated, persecuted political figure in the history of the United States. And look at all he was able to accomplish in spite of that.
I know. It's all about the money. It's all about the higher-ups, the elites. Yep, power
and money.
Line in their pockets. Yep.
Let me just read Section 793 to you here that they're trying to go after him on. And it says, Section A, mishandling of government documents. 1, retention of national defense information. 2, concealing government records. 3, conversion of government property. Or 4, additional possible statutory approaches to document mishandling. It's really number 1 that they're after. But again, the President of the United States can declassify with a bold stroke of a pen. If he says, I'm holding this document in my hand and I deem it to be declassified, it is now declassified. So I do not think, have a leg to stand on. But that doesn't mean and again, this has never been done. And this is a novel theory. They're going to try to argue and get maybe even judge shopping. This is going to go down to probably the U.S. District Court in Miami, the Southeastern District, where there are a bunch of judges, or it goes to the 11th Circuit, where there's a Trump-appointed judge, Elizabeth Branch, who, again, I think is a common sense judge, and she's a textualist, an originalist, and I think she's going to look at the Constitution, and she may even dismiss this if it gets before Judge Branch.
Hope so.
I think this thing gets dismissed. By the way, Trump has now new attorneys. The attorneys from last night are now gone. Jim Trusty and John Rowley have moved on, and he's now hired somebody out of New York, and I think another law firm to be named later, because this is high-stakes stuff now. And not that they weren't good attorneys, but they serve their purpose. So here is President Trump talking about what I just mentioned, lawfare, and what lawfare really is. And lawfare basically is something else that they do, is they try you in the court of public opinion. They use the media to gin up these charges, a bunch of leaks to the media. The media starts breathlessly reporting, you're going to be indicted, you're guilty. Then they bring all the punditry class, the talking heads. Oh, my God, Donald Trump, this is it's the worst thing since sliced bread. And what that does is it helps to convert public opinion. So pretty soon you got the public trying to, but I think it's going to blow up in their face this time. Here, once again, President Trump on lawfare.
They come after me because now we're leading in the polls again by a lot, against Biden and against the Republicans by a lot. But we're leading against Biden by a lot, a tremendous amount. And we went up to a level that they figure the way they're going to stop us is by using what's called warfare. And that's what it is. This is warfare for the law. And we can't let it happen. We can't let it happen. Our country is going to hell. And they come after Donald Trump, weaponizing the Justice Department, weaponizing the FBI. We can't let this continue to go on because it's ripping our country to shreds. We have such big problems, and this shouldn't be one of them. It's a hoax. The whole thing is a hoax, just like Russia, just like the fake dossier was a hoax. You saw the Durham report. You saw the Mueller report. It was all a big hoax. You had 2 impeachments, and they lost and we won. And we had tremendous support. But that was a hoax and a scam. And now they're doing it again. It's just a continuation, 7 years. even after I'm out. But it's called election interference. They're trying to destroy a reputation so they can win an election. That's just as bad as doing any of the other things that have been done over the last number of years, and especially during the 2020 election.
Yep. You know what? He's absolutely right about the election interference. It wasn't the Russians. It wasn't the CCP or the Iranians. Nope. It was our own government. It was our own government agencies, the CIA, the FBI. They interfered in 2016 with that election. And then, of course, they in 2020, we knew that election was rigged. And in 2022, in the midterms, I think, and they're going to do it again in 2024. They're going to absolutely do it again. And that's the reason why we've got to be at the top of our game and not Ronna McDaniel's silly, bank the vote nonsense that she's touting. She is the biggest whiffer in the history of the United States, meaning that she just doesn't. She can never hit the ball. It just
very disappointing.
But it's predictable because once again, Republicans care about money and the Democrats care about power. Yeah. And when you have the power, no amount of money in the world can wrest that away from them. So keep that in mind. But Trump continues to proclaim his innocence.
So I just want to tell you, I'm an innocent man. I did nothing wrong. And we'll fight this out just like we've been fighting for 7 years. It would be wonderful if we could devote our full time to making America great again. And that's exactly what we did. But now, again, our country is in decline. We're a failing nation. And this is what they do. I'm an innocent man. We will prove that again. 7 years of proving it. And here we go again. Very unfair. But that's the way it is. I just want to thank everybody. We are doing something very special for our country. We're putting America first. I always put America first. And that's why we were in a position. Unfortunately, that position is no longer valid because they've done such a poor job. But we're in a position where we're going to make America great again. I'm innocent, and we will prove that very, very soundly and hopefully very quickly.
Now, think about this for just a second. We have the alleged mishandling of documents. Trump had documents all neatly stacked in boxes. They were kept in one room and was cooperating with the FBI and the National Archives and Records Administration.
And that room was locked.
But they asked for a lock. The door was locked. They asked for an additional lock of the door, which he complied with. He was cooperating with the government and making sure that these documents were indeed kept, secrets, and not anybody could go rifling through them. But if they were declassified, what difference does it make anyway? But that's what he did. But remember the pictures that we saw from Mar-a-Lago? The pictures were documents spread all over the floor, as if that's how Trump was keeping them. Right. No, that's what the FBI did to photograph them. They spread them on the floor intentionally to make it look like Trump was reckless with the documents. Not as reckless as Joe Biden keeping them next to his Corvette in the garage.
Exactly.
So, this has all been a setup. And the other thing is they still will not tell a judge or the courts what's in the documents that he allegedly mishandled. How does that work? If you have a right to face your accuser, you have a right to the evidence. That's going to come out. And unless, of course, and this might be the next step where the Justice Department is going to invoke, oh, no, these are too important to national security. But I want you to remember this one thing. Many people think that the president and or his staff are the ones that pack up the documents. Yeah. They assist, but the ones supervising it are the National Archives and Records Administration, or NARA. So they're there when every president leaves and every transition to make sure that the documents are properly stored. They're going to their proper places. Sometimes NARA takes some of the documents. The president doesn't want them. He gives them to them, and they keep them for historical, for prosperity. What I think happened here, I think, they successfully pulled off the steal and they dodged a bullet. But to make sure their insurance, remember, it's all about insurance policies with Donald Trump, to make sure that if were he to come back again and run again, they needed an insurance policy to take him out again, just like they did the first time. So they knowingly, NARA, knew that whatever documents, these Crossfire Hurricane documents, regarding the Russia hoax that he probably had in his possession. And so they knowingly let him take those out, even though he declassified them. They then go back and argue, oh, no, those have national defense information, because the Justice Department gets to say whatever the national defense information is. There isn't a standard that one uses to say, okay, that's secret, that's top secret. It's based on sources, methods, and whatever's going on at that time. Can you believe we still have the classified documents? It won't tell us what happened in the Kennedy assassination or with the UFOs or, the full story on 9/11, meaning the culprits, because I think the government knows there were other culprits involved. We never got their names. So all of that NARA is there to assist. I think he was set up. I think they knew exactly what documents that he had, and they let him walk out the door with those. He took them to Mar-a-Lago, and now for insurance purposes, for argument's sake, they had him in a trap.
And they said if he would have never declared that he was going to run again, that the raid would have never happened in the first place, because up until that point, there was nothing said.
Right. Well, that's the reason why we haven't really seen a raid of Obama, Bush 43, or of Clinton
right.
or Jimmy Carter for that matter,
yeah.
Because Reagan and 41 are dead. But who knows? They could have had documents in their libraries, and
I'm sure they did.
This is just one-sided. It's unfair. It's unequal treatment under the law, and any judge worth their weight would notify that. But I do want to play something for you that Joe Biden did say, and this was, I think, last year, if I'm not mistaken, in a PBS interview. He kind of gave up the ghost as to what the Democrats and Biden would do about Donald Trump if he decided to run again.
We just have to demonstrate that he will not take power. If he does run, making sure he, under legitimate efforts of our Constitution, does not become the next president again.
Yep, there it is.
There you go.
We just have to make sure he does not take power. And that's what they're doing. And you're damn tootin' that the White House knew, Merrick Garland knew. In fact, the White House is the one that initiated the NARA ordeal. If you remember, we went back and covered that in a previous episode. So they initiated it. This is White House originated, and it's being done by their henchmen in the Justice Department, including Merrick Garland. But there's also an allegation of prosecutorial misconduct. Trump lawyers came out fighting the attorney Jim Trusty. He's no longer with Trump, but he's demanding a probe of criminal activity of the prosecutors, claiming that a lawyer for ex-President Trump's valet, who was an ex-military aide, was extorted. And he insists that he had a right to take classified documents, says President Trump. But here's what happened. Walt Nauta, apparently, he was claiming pressure from the prosecutors. He hired an attorney. The attorney shows up to talk with the DOJ, and the DOJ prosecutor says to the attorney, gee, I understand you're up for a judgeship. Those papers are sitting on Biden's desk. I'm paraphrasing here. Mm-hmm. If you get your client, meaning the aide, the valet, to flip on Trump, hey, maybe those papers get signed. So this was extortion. Right. This is bribery. Not only that, they tried to violate President Trump's attorney-client privileges. Former attorney Tim Parlator talked about that recently in an interview.
I witnessed a lot of misconduct.
What did that look like?
So it's been reported, I went before the grand jury myself. I was not subpoenaed. I went involuntarily as in the place of a custodian of records. And I was really stunned by what I saw in the grand jury room by the conduct of the prosecutors. They made many attempts to try to get at privileged communications. They would ask me about conversations with my client. They would make improper references to the jury, trying to mislead them about that. At one point, it got to the level where, they're asking me this again, and then they'll turn to the grand jury and they say, so you're refusing to provide this information? Like, no, I'm not refusing to provide. The ethical rules prohibit me. Even if the answer to this question is helpful, I'm not allowed to give it. And I turned to the jury and I said, and she knows it. She knows that it's an improper question. It's an improper inference. That then led to an exchange where she tried saying, well, The privilege has exceptions. It could be waived, yes. Well, if the president's so cooperative, why won't he waive privilege and allow you to tell the grand jury about his conversations?
Why does that cross a legal red line?
Well, that crosses a major red line as far as implying guilt to a jury based on the invocation of a constitutional right. It's the kind of thing that if that had happened in a trial court, the judge would have immediately stopped everything, probably declared a mistrial. And it's the kind of thing that, quite frankly, an attorney, a prosecuting attorney who willfully does that type of thing would potentially face discipline. And I think that they probably will when this case comes out.
And that's the problem, none of these people, Comey, Baker, McCabe, Strzok, Page, none of them, even going all the way back to Susan Rice, Barack Obama, Clapper, Brennan.
So frustrating.
None of them have actually had any accountability.
Nope. They
got away with it. They got away with an attempted coup on President Trump. And so now they're emboldened. Now they're really going to push the envelope. All right, now let's go indict him. Let's see what else we can do. Let's see what else. And until somebody is able to hold it, and that's what I'm saying. This is a feckless, weak Republican, with few exceptions. I got to tell you, few exceptions. There are a lot of people that say they're Trump defenders, but their actions are lacking. I can count probably on one hand the number of people that would have Donald Trump's back in his cabinet. And again, I don't include Mike Pence in that.
No.
Okay.
No, not at all.
I wouldn't include Mike Pompeo in that. Devin Nunes is one. John Radcliffe, the former director of national intelligence, is another.
Josh Hawley.
I think Josh Hawley. I don't think he didn't serve in his cabinet, but he would have his back. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Very few people. So maybe five, if that. It's sad, but that's what you're up against the swamp. So now we have this revelation in a PBS interview with, I think it was Judy Woodruff last year, about the classified documents found next to the Corvette in the garage of his home. How long? And again, remember, Biden had so many. There were over 8,500 boxes. So many, yet it split them between two universities, University of Delaware and Penn. He also had them in his home. I don't think we had any in the beach house, but that's how many documents he had. So whatever Trump had pales in comparison.
Right.
And again, Trump was president. He could declassify. Biden was a vice president and a senator who could not. And clearly he knew that he could not because of his 50 years in Washington. Trump came in as a businessman. He didn't know all the classification rules. I mean, ignorance is no excuse, but still, I mean, let's compare apples to apples here. So here's what Joe Biden told PBS regarding those classified documents.
I made voluntarily, no one's had to threaten to do anything, voluntarily open every single aperture I have with house, offices, everything for them to come and look and spend hours searching my home, invited them. Nobody, and the best of my knowledge, the kinds of things they picked up are things that from 1974 and stray papers. There may be something else I don't know.
Stray papers. Boy, that's a real handling of classified. For 50 years, this guy's been holding on to God knows what, classified or otherwise, and they're just stray papers. And do you know he's not been interviewed by his special counsel yet on the document scandal? Robert Hur is his name, as a U.S. attorney from Maryland. So Congressman Matt Gaetz says, look, this is exactly what we're talking about here. Lawfare, the use of the legal system, conduct open warfare on your political opponents. This is the weaponization of our justice system, says Congressman Gaetz.
That is obviously a weaponization of our justice system. And I mean, it's so obvious. Look at all these other presidents who had stuff in their house. Joe Biden has had classified documents at his place since 1974. And as Donald Trump is engaged in some real-time dispute with the archivist, they're going to turn us into a third world country over that? Does anyone even take this stuff at face value? The only reason they're coming after Trump is because he is winning and because he is running again and he is seeking to deliver us back to the great successes that this country deserves.
Yeah, and remember, he says, I am your voice of retribution.
Yep.
And they know, the deep state knows that their days are numbered if and when he gets back in again. That's why they're throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at him. And thank God he was able to get a lot of judges that are originalists.
That's right.
And because imagine if he wasn't able to do that, I don't know where we'd be at this point. But Trump says the wolves, he's got a brand new ad out. He says the Democrats, the FBI, all these other agencies, he's calling them the wolves, and the wolves are gathering against the former president.
Here's a question for you. Just how far are the radical left and inside the Beltway bandits willing to go to stop him? They all know they hate him for winning the fight to protect life, for exposing their deep state, for draining their precious swamp. And they already know he'll crush Biden. So like a pack of rabid wolves, they attack. So let's impeach him. Let's get tainted radical left prosecutors to charge him. Let's conspire with Hillary and the FBI with fake stories about him. All to distract from Biden's incompetence, weakness, and money-grabbing corruption. But here's the thing. He'll never blink. That's called having the courage of your convictions. And it's why he's our president.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Yeah, and I think it's a very powerful message because that's going to resonate with the base. We have some solutions for you that we'll share with you at the end of the show. Now's a good time to talk about our pockets of patriots. DC remains the #1 download spot of course, for this podcast for this week. And in at #2, first time, Sykesville, Maryland, in Carroll County, which is a suburb of Baltimore. Watertown, Wisconsin, weighs in, as does Leonard, Texas. So we want to thank you for downloading, subscribing. Please remember to rate and review the show, the podcast. Because that helps us to grow the show. So we appreciate that as well. Time for Joey B. He's here with his weekly podcast address. Remember, he just vetoed the student loan bill that Congress had shot his student loan bailout bill down, and then he vetoed it, and he's all full of himself.
The smell of Americans. Sweet Joey B., the President of the White House. I forgive you still. Congress wanted to take away your student debt loan forgiveness bill, but I said veto Corleone. That's French for not on my watch. You used to have to be afraid if the government got you a loan. Not anymore. You're not alone. I mean, you don't have a loan because I will get you a loan. I'll be right there with you, rubbing your shoulders, sniffing your hairs, whispering how great it would be to get you a loan. And then no matter what happens when I get you a loan, I will forgive you. Guilty free. And then you'll probably want to go get yourself a loan. Take a shower or something. Go to school, America.
Yeah, go to school, America. I'm just this notification just crossing my on my phone here moments ago. Remember the valet we talked about that they were trying to put pressure on his attorney to flip the valet. That valet now has been indicted in the Trump document case. And now what they're going to try to do is they're going to try to go up the ladder. They indict all the lower men, the lower fish, and they go right up the ladder to try to get the big fish. So that's typical Justice Department. By the way, Tom Fitton also had accused the prosecutors of prosecutorial misconduct, and they are. I'm no doubt guilty of that. Okay, on to the reason why the indictment happened last night. Because yesterday, Congress got a look-see at the FBI Form 1023. This was the form where a highly credible, paid FBI informant filled out a form saying that he had evidence or he had concerns that a foreign national or foreign government were trying to attempt to bribe an American president, vice president, whichever, and, of course, through his son, We're talking about the Biden crime family. And yesterday, Marjorie Taylor Greene she got a peek inside the SCIF. I don't know why it's in a SCIF, because they're unclassified documents. Shouldn't be in a SCIF. But that's where they had to go to look at it. You couldn't photograph it. You couldn't take it out. You couldn't take a picture of it with your camera. But she made some notes, and she shared those notes of what she learned from this document regarding Burisma and Hunter Biden.
Basically, what was happening here is back in 2015, 2016, Burisma was looking to buy a U.S.-based oil and gas company. And this came from being advised by Hunter Biden and his partners. Biden said Shokin was corrupt. That was around the time of this meeting, was when Joe Biden, as vice president, had said that the prosecutor Shokin was corrupt. They hired Hunter on the board to make the problems go away. That's what they specifically said. Hunter advised that they could raise more money if they bought a U.S. company. So the informant was trying to do the right thing and trying to advise Burisma that they shouldn't go this route. They should hire an attorney, work out their problems that they were being investigated for, because they were having other legal problems. And that's why they were being investigated by this prosecutor Shokin. The informant was advising them, don't go this route. Why would you buy another U.S. company while you're under investigation? That's not a good idea.
Yeah, no, not a good idea. So, again, this was the document that Christopher Wray said doesn't exist. And then Jim Comer said, oh, well, I've seen it. Oh, okay, never mind. You can come look at it now. Chris Wray's a rat and a liar.
Did it have the name of the informant on it? I'm just trying to figure out why it's in the SCIF, you know?
Probably.
Okay.
So maybe that was redacted. That part was redacted.
Yeah.
So, but it's not classified.
No.
But the names were redacted. Mm-hmm. You could release, how many times have they released the documents with half the page is blacked out? Right.
Exactly.
They could have done that, but they're still in the hide mode. But the big question here, the bribes themselves, and Marjorie Taylor Greene says, yes, indeed, there's evidence of bribes.
He also said that he paid $5 million to one Biden, and he paid $5 million to another Biden. And it was all a bribery to get Shokin fired and end the investigation into Burisma. He also told the informant this is common practice in Russia and Ukraine. It's common practice. It's part of business there. That's how their culture works, that they will pay bribery money in order to get business deals done. And that many businesses, they take that into account. They put it in their budget, basically, when they're preparing to buy another company or start another company, that's just normal. And so over in Ukraine, for them to consider hiring Hunter Biden on the board in order to make their problems go away, which was the prosecutor Shokin, who was investigating Burisma for corruption and legal problems. This was definitely illegal for a vice president of the United States and their family members.
Yeah, and so there we have it, the bribes. And again, these are allegations. This is not smoking gun. Oh, wait, maybe there is some smoking gun evidence. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene talks about that.
He told the informant that he has two pieces of evidence showing proof of payment to Hunter and specifically Joe Biden. You see, I think what everyone needs to understand is that business owners, at least most smart ones, whether they're good or bad, whether they perform their business in a legal manner or a corrupt manner, they always keep records of their business payments, accounts and receivables. That's how it's done. And this owner of Burisma kept a record, especially of the bribes. And if you're in an industry where you have to pay bribes to get your business deals done, then you always want to keep a record and keep proof of your bribes, because that's how you make sure you get people to follow through on what they're done with.
So there you have it. Yeah. Those are the allegations. Ukrainian Burisma, we know about that. Hunter Biden was hired there with absolutely no energy experience. We know why. It was called its access. And then this is the way the business is done in that part of the world. Ukraine is completely corrupt, as is Russia. et cetera. Remember, the wife of the Moscow mayor paid $1 million to Hunter Biden. For what?
Right.
Okay. Green went on to say this is an impeachable document. President Biden should be impeached. Secondly, he should be prosecuted. This is unbelievable. It's a pay-to-play scheme. He took a bribe from a foreign national in a foreign country that paid millions of dollars. He needs to be prosecuted for this, and I would argue he should serve jail time. Nancy Mace from South Carolina agrees, quote, the American people and media deserve to see the evidence. We should follow the facts. End of quote. Well, good luck in getting hold of that. And then we have, this is what Comer did. He dropped the contempt charge and just to see the document. Well, you were supposed to get the document. Okay. So once again, checks and balances failed here. He could have held Chris Wray's feet to the fire. Comer let him up off the map.
Democrats are just better at playing poker than we are.
Yeah. Yesterday, at a press conference with the English Prime Minister, a reporter asked Joe Biden about the evidence in the FBI file showing that he had sold out his country. Here's how that exchange went.
I'm supposed to walk off the stage now. But wait.
The bribery allegation, Congresswoman Nancy Mace says there's damning evidence in the FBI file that you sold out the country. Do you have a response to congressional Republicans?
Where's the money? I'm joking.
Mr. President,
it's a bunch of malarkey.
Yeah, and he went on to say, I'm honest after that. Yeah. Trump says, I'm innocent. Biden says, I'm honest. Yeah, well, I think we know the truth there.
Not a joke.
Let them investigate. And this is a great case. Let them investigate the Biden crime family like they did President Trump. See what happens. See what they come up with. I guarantee you, they're all going to jail. Our Patriot of the Week was the founder of the Christian Broadcast Network. Pat Robertson was also a presidential candidate. He passed away this week, and he and the moral majority and the rest of the evangelical Christian nation will miss him dearly.
I think there are men who are in a woman's body. It's very rare, but it's true, or women that are in men's bodies, that they want a sex change. I don't think there's any sin associated with that. I don't condemn somebody for doing that. 50 Shades of Grey is the fastest selling paper book of all time. Mommy porn. A third of the millions of Americans who watch porn are women. Yes. Who thought? He cheated on you. Well, he's a man. Okay. Give him honor instead of trying to worry about it. What you want to do is to make a home so wonderful that he doesn't want to wander. Why do you build houses in a place where tornadoes are apt to happen?
Not so much why did God send them, but why didn't he intervene?
If enough people were praying, he would intervene. You could pray. Don't blame God for doing something foolish.
Just a few snippets of the legendary and controversial Pat Robertson. Time for our liberal lunatics of the day. Our first nominee is Joyless Reed of MSNBC. She knows what's causing those Canadian wildfires.
Today, around 98 million people across 18 states, from New Hampshire all the way to South Carolina, were under air quality alerts, including New York City, which earlier today had the worst air quality in the world. The air is so bad, officials in the affected areas are urging people to stay inside, not partake in any outdoor activity, and start wearing N95 masks again. These kinds of weather phenomena are happening all around the globe, and it's only becoming more and more common, all because of climate change. And even as we barrel towards a climate catastrophe, many world leaders are still wary of any substantial climate action because of their unrelenting dependence on oil.
Oh, yes, oil, big, bad stuff.
That's
only
it.
led to the complete, making the United States the superpower of the world. But that's probably what she hates. But this idea about climate change, I think it might be more of climate terrorism. I want you to, again, if you're watching the podcast, you'll get a chance to see this. If you're just listening, I would go to Rumble and watch the video portion of this, because this is an incredible piece of video that I found, satellite imagery from the College of DuPage in the northeastern United States. Their meteorology department found something odd about the dozen fires that started in Quebec, and here it is.
Look up here in the upper right-hand corner. Watch this throughout the day today. a giant outbreak of fires has taken place across a whole Canadian province all at once. Look up to the northeast, up here in Quebec. All of Quebec just caught on fire all at once on a clear day. I would say this would be some kind of terrorism of some kind or an attack. Here it is. Here we are. I'm going to let the images load. You can see this morning. It's clear. Just partly cloudy skies. Nothing really crazy going on there. And then, well, there's last night. Here's today. All of southeast Quebec is caught on fire, guys. All of it. Insane. Insane. Look at that. The whole thing. All at once.
Crazy.
How about that?
Yeah. That's the one I saw circulating around.
10 or 11 fires all at once. So Joy Reid thinks it's climate change.
Yeah.
Next up is our buddy, the governor of the blue state of Maryland, where we broadcast behind enemy lines in the Baltimore area, Wes Moore, and the progressive values.
I think one of the things that we're doing here in Maryland is we're not just moving fast, we're moving together, and we're actually showing that progressive values are something that we're actually getting not just Democrats, but also even Republican support for.
What? Progressive values. Now Republicans, maybe that is the uniparty. He's saying Republicans support all this progressivism.
Sure.
There's one Republican that doesn't. I'm sure you don't either, Michelle.
I don't know.
And finally, Montgomery County Public Schools, we jokingly refer to it as the People's Republic of Montgomery County in Maryland. Recently, a group of Muslim students testified before the school board there against books that they were being forced to read. That's because Montgomery County got rid of its parental opt-out, meaning that children cannot opt out of this crap. Books like Uncle Bobby's Wedding, which tells the story of a young girl's uncle marrying his boyfriend, or Pride Puppy invites 3 to 4-year-olds to find things that they may see at a pride parade, including drag queens, kings, leather, and underwear. So parents are upset they couldn't opt out. Here is one of the council persons on the Montgomery County Council, Kristen Mink. Listen to her rather unfortunate comparison.
I've had a lot of really good conversations this morning with many of the people who have testified here. And, and it's more complicated, I think, than a lot of people would like to think it is. This issue has unfortunately put some, not all, of course, but some Muslim families on the same side of an issue as white supremacists and outright bigots. And, however, the folks who I've talked to here today, I would not put in the same category as those folks, although, it's, again, complicated because they're falling on the same side of this particular issue.
Yeah, well, you just did put them in the same category,
exactly.
You moron. And imagine if you're a parent, you don't want your children being exposed to drag kings, queens, sex toys, creepy S&M, bondage, all that other crap that does, pretty much dominate pride parades and things of that nature. And you just don't want your child, you're not opposed to it. You don't want to, whatever adults do, they do. But your kindergartner or your 3-year-old, you don't want them exposed to it. Now you're a white supremacist, even though you happen to be Muslim.
Right. That's what they do. Disgusting.
All right. So which one do you think is our liberal lunatic of the day, Michelle?
Kristen Mink.
All right.
White
we'll make
supremacy.
We won't even take it any further. She wins hands down.
Hands down. Mm-hmm.
Time for our outrage of the week. Michelle, what is yours?
Well, it kind of piggybacks on Kristen Mink there. At a pride event in Reading, Pennsylvania, it was on a public street, a parade, and a Christian man was reading scripture from his Bible, and he got arrested for doing so. So
wasn't the "Go and sin no more"? Wasn't that the? I think the phrase that he was put on. He was either shouting or put on a postcard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Whatever happened to the First Amendment has both. It has freedom of speech and free to exercise your religion.
Yeah.
I think that'll get wiped. Hopefully it'll get wiped.
I
but
hope
that is
so.
just outrageous. My outrage, the United States Air Force is celebrating LGBT Pride Month with a U.S. serviceman saluting the activist, homosexual, bisexual, transgender, queer rainbow flag. The Air Force published a tweet this week saying June is Pride Month. The Department of Air Force proudly recognizes and celebrates generations of the substituting Rainbow Mafia service members and their contributions to our Air Force and Space Force. And has a picture of a soldier saluting the pride flag. The only flag that is ever to be saluted is the American flag. Oh, the old glory. No state flags, no even the thin blue line flag. Nope, doesn't get saluted. Only the American flag. And that is my outrage of the day. Thank you for joining us on this episode. You can contact us here at theshawncaseyshow@gmail.com, and we love hearing from you.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction.
And that's going to do it for us. Stay tuned. The Casey Commentary is tomorrow, back with a full episode on Monday, the day before the Trump indictment. Thanks to our executive producer, Michelle Drusella.
My pleasure. See you Monday.
And to our associate producers, Hunter and Logan Casey. Back on Monday. And remember, fight hard and stay free.